Under the twin suns of Zan'thu, a verdant world pulsed with life. In a glade near the tranquil lake Lira, Lira, a young Zanthian woman, knelt to touch the surface of the water. Ripples spread outward, distorting her reflection. Deep blue eyes, dark hair, and an expression of concentration. Lira knelt by the shores of Lake Lira, her fingers trailing through the cool, clear water. The gentle lapping of the waves and the soft rustling of the leaves in the breeze created a symphony of tranquility, but Lira's mind was far from serene. Around her, the glade pulsed with the collective consciousness of the Zanthians, their thoughts and emotions intertwining in a complex tapestry. Through the ever-present telepathic bond, Lira could feel the contentment of a young couple strolling hand in hand, the joy of children playing in the nearby meadow, and the quiet contemplation of an elder meditating beneath an ancient tree. Yet despite this deep connection to her people and her world, Lira often found herself yearning for something more. She had always been different, her mind more curious, more restless than those around her. While other Zanthians were content with the harmony of their daily lives, Lira longed to explore, to discover, to push beyond the boundaries of her known world. As she gazed into the rippling water, Lira's thoughts drifted to the ancient prophecies, the tales of beings from beyond the stars who would one day visit Zan'thu. She had always been fascinated by these stories, spending countless hours in the Hall of Records, poring over the faded texts and intricate illustrations.
Could it be possible?
Lira wondered, her heart quickening at the thought.
Could there truly be life beyond our world? Civilizations with knowledge and wonders we can scarcely imagine?
Lost in her musings, Lira almost didn't notice the sudden shift in the telepathic field. It started as a faint ripple, a distant sense of excitement and trepidation that gradually grew stronger, more insistent. Lira looked up, scanning the faces of the Zanthians around her. They had felt it too, an undercurrent of something new, something different. And then she saw it. A glint of metal in the sky, growing larger with each passing second. Lira's breath caught in her throat as she realized what she was witnessing. A spacecraft, descending towards the planet's surface. Lira rose to her feet, her heart pounding in her chest. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the moment the prophecies had foretold. Visitors from the stars, coming to Zan'thu. As the spacecraft grew closer, Lira could feel the ripple of excitement and apprehension growing stronger among her people. Some were curious, eager to catch a glimpse of these otherworldly visitors. Others were wary, uncertain of what this new presence might mean for their world. Lira's own emotions were a swirling mix of anticipation and trepidation. She yearned to meet these visitors, to learn from them, to explore the possibilities their presence represented. Yet, she also felt a flicker of fear, a worry that their arrival might somehow disrupt the delicate balance of Zan'thu. Steeling herself, Lira began to walk towards the meadow where the spacecraft was landing. Her steps were measured but eager, her eyes fixed on the gleaming metal hull as it descended through the atmosphere. As she approached, she saw the hatch of the spacecraft begin to open, revealing a group of figures within. They were unlike any beings Lira had ever seen, tall and bipedal, with smooth, hairless skin and wide, expressive eyes. They wore strange garments, form-fitting and emblazoned with unfamiliar symbols. Lira's mind reached out instinctively, seeking to touch the thoughts of these newcomers. But their minds were closed to her, guarded in a way that was both unfamiliar and intriguing. One of the figures, a male with short, dark hair and piercing blue eyes, stepped forward. He carried himself with an air of authority, his gaze sweeping over the assembled Zanthians before coming to rest on Lira. What a strange world, the man thought, watching a creature flitter about, as if walking on air in the breeze. What a strange world indeed.
"Greetings,"
he said, his voice deep and resonant.
"I am Captain Jameson of the Earth ship Endeavor. We come in peace."
As Lira faced the human visitors, a momentary hesitation gripped her. She had dreamed of this moment, had longed for the day when the prophecies would be fulfilled, but now that it was here, she found herself at a loss for words. Captain Jameson stepped forward, his eyes scanning the surroundings with a mix of wonder and apprehension. He turned to his lead science officer, Dr. Sorensen, a tall, slender woman with keen eyes and a curious expression.
Dr. Sorensen, I thought you said the Zanthians had been notified of our arrival,
he said, a hint of concern in his voice. Dr. Sorensen nodded, tapping on a small device strapped to her wrist.
They were, Captain. Our universal translator has already registered their language, and we sent a message ahead of our landing.
The captain frowned, his gaze returning to Lira. She could sense his unease, the uncertainty that rippled through the minds of the human crew. Taking a deep breath, Lira stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke.
Yes, we have been expecting you,
she said, the words feeling strange and unfamiliar on her tongue.
I can understand your language.
It was a half-truth, a small deception that Lira immediately regretted. In reality, she had not been informed of the humans' arrival, had not been part of the discussions and preparations that must have taken place among the elders. But she could not bear to reveal this to the visitors, could not risk sowing doubt or mistrust in their first encounter. Captain Jameson's eyebrows rose, a flicker of surprise crossing his features.
You have? Well, that's excellent news. We're happy to finally make contact with your people.
Lira forced a smile, trying to project an air of confidence and welcome.
Please follow me. The elders must be waiting for us.
She gestured towards the path that led into the dense foliage, the one that would take them to the heart of the Zanthian settlement. The humans exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them, before Captain Jameson nodded and motioned for his crew to follow. As they walked, Lira could feel the humans' minds, their thoughts guarded but tinged with awe at the beauty of Zan'thu. The lush greenery, the vibrant flowers, the gentle hum of insects, and the distant trills of exotic birds. It was a sensory experience unlike anything they had encountered before. Lira reached out with her mind, sending a gentle pulse of reassurance to the visitors. It was a wordless communication, a subtle attempt to ease their tension and convey the peaceful intentions of her people. But even as she did so, Lira could not shake the sense of unease that had settled in the pit of her stomach. She had always been attuned to the emotions and intentions of those around her, a byproduct of the Zanthians' telepathic bond. And now, as she walked alongside these strange visitors from another world, she could sense a hint of something else beneath their surface thoughts, a deeper purpose, a hidden agenda that she could not quite decipher. Lira glanced at Captain Jameson, studying his profile as he walked. He was handsome, in an alien sort of way, with strong features and a confident bearing. But there was something else about him, an intensity in his gaze, a determined set to his jaw, that both intrigued and unsettled her. What did these humans truly want? Lira wondered. And what would their arrival mean for the future of Zan'thu? They entered a vast hall carved from the trunk of a giant million tree. The Zanthian elders, draped in shimmering robes, sat in a semicircle. Their thoughts, ancient and wise, brushed against Lira's mind. The eldest, Thalion, met Lira's eyes steadily. She could feel him reaching out to her. She could feel that he regretted his deception, but for the first time, she kept her mind private.
Welcome, travelers from Earth,
spoke Thalion, taking a gentle breath.
Your journey has been long, and your purpose is noble. We have much to discuss.
As they entered the great hall, Captain Jameson couldn't help but marvel at the intricate architecture, the way the room seemed to pulse with a life of its own. The Zanthian elders sat in a semicircle, their robes shimmering in the soft light that filtered through the translucent walls. Jameson stepped forward, his voice steady and diplomatic.
Thank you for your welcome. We come seeking knowledge and understanding. We believe our peoples can benefit from an exchange of ideas and culture.
Thalion, the eldest of the council, nodded slowly.
Indeed, but we must proceed with caution. Our way of life, our connection to each other and to Zan'thu is delicate. We must ensure that any change is for the good of all.
As Thalion spoke, Jameson became acutely aware of a shift in the atmosphere. The Zanthian elders seemed to lean forward, their eyes narrowing slightly as they studied the human delegation. It was as if a veil had been drawn across the room, a palpable tension that set Jameson's nerves on edge. He glanced back at his officers, noticing the way they shifted uncomfortably, their minds guarded and wary. They had been briefed on the Zanthians' telepathic abilities, but the reality of being in the presence of such power was clearly unsettling. Jameson realized with a start that it was their very attempt to conceal their thoughts that was causing the unease. To the Zanthians, the humans' guarded minds must have appeared as a dark shroud, an impenetrable barrier that only served to heighten their suspicion. He turned back to the elders, catching Lira's concerned gaze. She stood slightly behind the council, her hands clasped behind her back, a subtle indication of her own apprehension. In that moment, Jameson made a decision. He took a deep breath, letting his mental barriers relax slightly.
I must be honest with you,
he began, his voice steady but sincere.
We have another reason for coming here, beyond cultural exchange.
The elders leaned forward, their interest piqued. Jameson continued, choosing his words carefully.
We have heard of the life-giving properties of some of your plants, the way they can heal and rejuvenate. We hope to study these plants, to learn from them, and perhaps find ways to apply that knowledge to help our own people.
He paused, letting his words sink in.
In return, we are willing to offer whatever assistance we can, whatever knowledge or technology your people might find useful. We come as friends, seeking a mutually beneficial partnership.
The tension in the room eased slightly, the elders exchanging glances as they considered Jameson's words. Thalion spoke again, his voice measured.
Your honesty is appreciated, Captain. We will consider your proposal and discuss it amongst ourselves.
Jameson nodded, feeling a small measure of relief. But as he glanced at Lira, he could see that she was not entirely convinced. Her silver eyes met his, a silent question in their depths. He knew that she could sense there was more to their mission, a deeper purpose that he had not yet revealed. But for now, he could only hope that his show of transparency would be enough to build a foundation of trust. As the meeting drew to a close, Thalion turned to Lira, his ancient eyes filled with a mix of wisdom and regret.
Daughter of the Emerald Vale,
he began, his voice heavy with the weight of his words.
I must first apologize for keeping you in the dark about the humans' arrival.
Lira felt a flicker of surprise, her hands clasped tightly behind her back as she met Thalion's gaze. The elder continued, his tone softening.
We did not think you were ready, Lira. Your mind has always been in the clouds, unburdened by the responsibilities of your title.
He paused, studying her face with a newfound intensity.
But seeing your interactions with the humans, the connection you have already forged, I sense that you are more than capable of the task we have in mind.
Lira's heart raced, a mix of excitement and trepidation coursing through her veins. She glanced back at the human delegation, her eyes drawn to Captain Jameson's strong profile, the way he seemed to radiate a quiet confidence. Thalion's voice drew her attention back to the council.
Lira, we wish for you to be our link to these humans, the bridge between our worlds. Your curious mind and open heart make you uniquely suited for this role.
A heavy silence fell over the room, the weight of Thalion's words settling on Lira's shoulders like a physical burden. She knew that this was a great honor, a chance to shape the future of her people and forge a new path forward. But it was also a tremendous responsibility. one that would test her in ways she had never been tested before. Lira's mind raced with the implications, the potential dangers and rewards of such a position. As she stood there, lost in thought, Captain Jameson stepped forward. His blue eyes met hers, a spark of genuine excitement dancing in their depths.
"We would be truly honored, Lira,"
he said, his voice warm and sincere,
"to have you as our guide, our connection to your world."
Lira felt a gentle tug in her chest, a whisper of something that she couldn't quite name. It was as if an invisible thread had suddenly sprung up between her and the human captain, a connection that went beyond mere diplomacy or duty. She allowed herself a small smile, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. Turning back to Thalion and the council, Lira gave a gentle nod, a simple gesture that carried the weight of her acceptance.
I am honored by your trust in me,
she said, her voice steady and clear.
I will do all that I can to foster understanding and cooperation between our peoples.
Thalion nodded, a flicker of pride in his ancient eyes.
We have faith in you, Lira. May the wisdom of our ancestors guide you in this endeavor.
As the meeting came to a close and the human delegation was led away to their quarters, Lira found herself walking beside Captain Jameson. The corridors of the great hall seemed to hum with a new energy, a sense of possibility that Lira had never felt before.
I look forward to working with you, Captain,
she said. As the humans left the hall to return to their ship, Lira stood alone, her mind buzzing with the weight of her new position. She knew the path ahead would be challenging, that there would be obstacles to overcome and misunderstandings to untangle. But she also knew that this was the beginning of something great, a chance for Zan'thu to grow and for her people to embrace a wider universe, and she was ready to face whatever lay ahead.
Hey everyone, hope you loved the video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more awesome sci-fi content. You can also support us by hitting the thanks button at the bottom of the video. Your generosity goes a long way. Every bit helps us bring you more stories from the stars. Thanks a bunch.